Hi, guys, welcome to another episode of The Unbecoming. This episode does come with a trigger warning as we will be talking about a very sensitive area. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guests. We have Lily
Yeah.
and Alia. And if you would both like to just say a little bit about yourself and your story and what brought you here today.
I am Alia Rose. I am a mother and also a Black woman in tech. I run my own online fitness company where I help women, especially mothers, feel like they can be comfortable in their skin and help transform their bodies. And aside from that, I've also recently launched my own brand called the Be Loud Foundation, which is very much so targeted at dismantling the taboo around sexual abuse specifically, but also other forms of abuse. And we operate on two legs. So one being preventative measures, educating children on abuse and parents also, and also cure. So how do we help then turn that pain into passion and help empower those people that have been silenced?
Fantastic. That is a lot. And that is an introduction. Lily?
So I'm Lily, I'm a mother, I'm also a registered social worker, community organiser, creative non-fiction writer, and I support a single parents ministry in my church.
Lovely.
And part of what I do is connecting with grassroots organisations, also faith groups, voluntary organisations and safeguarding consultants to help them support families, children. I'm really passionate about prevention, early intervention, and also working with people that have experienced sexual abuse and child sexual exploitation. And one of the organisations that I'm connected with is Shay. So she is someone who supports young people. Please follow her on NAS Youth, and her work is all around empowering people who have gone through abuse, sexual trauma. And she's connecting with different organisations.
Lovely.
So, yeah.
This is amazing stuff. I'm so glad to have you guys on here today. What makes you comfortable to share your story now?
So I would say I'm not fully 100% confident.
Okay.
And that's more because of what my story has done to me. So I guess that's the insecurities and the challenges. But the things that have caused me to come forward is, I definitely say, faith. I'm seeing that there's a lot of things happening in this area in terms of empowering women that have gone through these difficulties.
Yeah.
Being able to gain your voice back, not allowing what your past experiences to define you.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And yeah, just connecting with like-minded people. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So for me, I would say it's been a long time that I've had the confidence to talk about my abuse, and it's transformed and I've become more comfortable. But in a nutshell, it took me 15 years to finally speak out about the things that were happening to me. And that was 15 years of silence, of feeling not great about myself, feeling like I don't want to be here. It's just turmoil. And the moment where I finally found the strength to just let it come open out of my mouth, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulder. And outside of that, beyond then that sharing that first moment, I mean, I shared that with my mum. And in return, she actually shared with me for the first time. She shared with anybody that she was also sexually abused.
Really?
So she carried that for about 40 plus years.
Wow. So she hadn't shared it with anyone?
No.
Really?
So, and then just throughout life, so I was 15, throughout my whole life, I just found that no matter where I went, somehow it was like I had a magnet on myself that was like somebody would tell me, this is what's happened to me.
And
I've
you was
not shared
drawing
it.
those
I
energies
was
to you,
just
drawing
drawing
those
it. And
people to you.
as I got older, it was just something I became more comfortable sharing. And the more you share, the more you realize how much of a taboo it is, how uncomfortable people feel, how sometimes disgusted people feel about it. And that's what I wanted to change. I wanted to change the way people viewed abuse, especially how they view the person that's been abused. So yeah, it's been a long time. I'm lying. My daughter's 2, so it's not that recent. But I recently had a daughter.
I mean, too.
And
That is recent. That's recent.
You know, but having her, I knew that we're going to have these conversations early and they're going to be appropriate. So I use very simple terms and terminologies, but from very young, the minute that she was out of my care for even an hour or a day, these are your safe space. These parts are your safe space.
Yeah.
If somebody touches your safe space, this is what you do. And she knows those things religiously. So now I'm in a space where it's not just for myself, it's for her, and it's for all the little girls
Yeah.
in the world that need protecting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm going to get into that a bit more, because around like fear-based teaching, I'm not saying that was a fear-based response, but just thinking about what that does look like when you've been through trauma. Are we
Yes.
passing that on unconsciously because we're
Yes.
so protective of it? And would you have done that so early if you didn't go through your experience? It's that sort of
That's
conversation.
interesting. So I would say it's not fear, it's reality.
Okay.
So the reality is that there are
true.
people out
That's
there
true. That's a
that
good point.
do want to harm your children.
That's true.
And they walk amongst you every single
true.
day. 1 in 22 children are sexually abused. You walk into a classroom, one of those kids are being sexually abused at home. That's insane, right? In this country, every classroom you go into. So it's not about fear. And I don't, when we have these conversations, it's not about me saying there's bad people in the world. It's actually about empowering her to know that this is your body, and you're in control of it. So, and that's not just with strangers, that's with me too. So if we are getting dressed and you say, "Mummy, I don't want to do that. I want to do, like, I don't want you to do it, you do it," then that's your right. In the same way, if she says, "Mommy, I don't want a kiss, I don't want a hug," that's fine.
That's true.
And
That's a
it's
good
more
point.
about the
That is a good
empowerment
point.
of owning your body and knowing how to say no.
Yeah.
Because you don't learn how to say no and stick to your no's at a young age, because as a child, you're told what to do.
Yeah.
And when you do say no, you're seen as naughty, right? So
defiant,
now we're like, you don't say no to me, right?
Right.
It's defiance. But actually, I need to unpick why is the no.
Yeah.
So that if you are saying no, I'm not taking away your confidence to be strong and say no to somebody else in a different
it's true.
circumstance.
It's absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And it's that knowledge of it, so that she can take that, what you're learning, into other spaces, isn't
Exactly.
it? My son's 4 right now, and he's going through a phase of like knowing his body part. Well, I mean, he's been knowing his body parts, but recently been very fixated on bum, like everything. But it's funny to him. And then I've recently been really honing in on like, this is your private area, etc., because he does spend nights outside of home. Well, with his dad, I trust everybody, but it's still just that knowledge of understanding these are your private spaces. So I mean, I guess there is no age to start. And so and I'm glad that you corrected me with that fear based, because that's interesting. I never thought about it like that. But Lily, what about you in terms of your journey and your story?
I think my experiences, so I think it touches on what you're saying about the fear base. So I've got a child who's going to be an adult next month.
18?
Yes. And so I think with the experiences I went through, and I guess the transition between going through what I've gone through and then becoming a mother and supporting him in his journey, there was always those fears. So we did do the NSPCC pants rules, we had all the books and the colouring things, but I think maybe the inner child in me who wasn't protected, wasn't able to safeguard herself, wanted to protect my son. I wanted to be his savior and kind of keep him in the bubble. And I think that's something that I've had to learn. And there were times that I guess there were things that were triggered for me because my experiences were around harmful sexual behaviour. So that was the first harm. So that was by a relative that was a peer. And so there were lots of things that started coming out through parenting that I wouldn't have imagined. And so I guess in hindsight now, I know I'd do things differently. I think, getting that healing is one and talking about it.
How comfortable are you both to share parts of your story? I mean, obviously share what is safe and comfortable for you, but for the listeners and for the viewers, I think there's something helpful in hearing it, but also the empowerment around it, because it's not about the story. It's about what's happened afterwards, awareness, as you said. So if you are comfortable, again, no rules.
So I was abused, and I would say as young as I can remember, and this may not be when it started, but I know I had to be as young as 4 because my sister was a baby, and she was in the little baby thing, and she was downstairs, and so at as young as 4, I was sexually abused by my dad, and that lasted maybe until I was about 10. Until I was at an age where I was like, I don't want to be around this man. And I didn't ever express why, but I was very adamant that I'm not going to his on the weekend, and I'm not going to be around.
So you didn't all live together? You was going to his house?
My mom and dad broke up when I was 7.
Oh, okay.
They got divorced when I was 7, and I think he returned again about a year later. He was also very physically abusive to my mom.
Oh, okay.
And there wasn't a lot of times, but when it happened, it was very nasty.
Okay.
And it wasn't fear of him harming me, why I didn't speak about it. I think he just manipulated me enough to not have a good enough relationship with anybody else to feel safe enough to share. He'd manipulated me enough to despise my own mom. So
Okay.
the bond that
Okay.
would have, should have, that wasn't there.
Right.
You know, that's what these people are good at. They're very good at isolating you and coercing you and, you know, spoiling you so that it can, you know,
Balance
they
it out
leverage
in
it,
their
balances it
minds
out,
anyway.
right? So at 10, stopped seeing him. And I remember I didn't see him again for a couple of years. I was 13 the last time he tried to assault me. And that was the first time I found my voice and I said no.
Okay.
And I said, no, stop that. And
Okay.
I remember the look on his face to this day. And then I've seen him again in passing,
Okay.
but I've never been around him enough since then. Outside of that, when I was 7, I went to a holiday with my dad where I was sexually assaulted by 2 people, family friends, and also I had a other relative. It's not funny disclosure, but when you start adding it up, it's just insane. But there was also a relative. It was more of a peer because we're only a few years apart that would sexually assault me.
And did you tell anyone about those?
So everybody knows about those.
When you say everybody knows about those, as in when
Everybody-
it was happening?
No,
Like-
not when it was happening. So with the peer, it's a touchy one because people know that it's happened to me, but to some people I've not disclosed who is. And that is because they are a peer. And I think in growing up, I've realized that kids don't do this unless they're introduced to this.
They've seen something, you think.
Yeah,
So how was the peer at the time?
Timelines are very blurry. So this is another thing that it was good to talk about. Is because the brain has this really smart way of saying, you know what, you can't cope with this.
Yeah.
So it blocks it out. So I don't have a lot of childhood memories.
Okay.
And things are very blurry.
Okay.
But we were young, like very young enough to still be in primary school, both of us. And I think as we got older, it stopped when it was at an age where you'd know that, okay, if this is who you are, you'd still be doing this now.
Right.
And so I've kind of left that alone for a little bit because
Do you see this person?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. It's not spoken about, but yeah, I do see them.
How do you feel about that?
I don't want to act like I'm completely healed and I'm okay. But I am very healed from these things that have happened to me because they happened to me, but they aren't me.
Right.
And somebody
the
else
key.
did them. So the
Right.
things that
Yeah,
happened to
yeah,
me are
absolutely.
actually define the other people, right?
Yeah.
Not me.
No, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think I've thought so deeply, prayed so deeply, spoken so much about them that they aren't so triggering anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. That is a lot though. I must say. I mean, it is a lot, and it's something that no child should go through. It's intense. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being so open and honest like that. Have you spoken about this publicly yet or
No.
no? Okay. Wow.
No.
So-
Like if you speak to anyone around me, they'll be like, "Oh, I know that." Like,
Really?
Because I speak out all the time. I've been in a room full of people, and like I remember I was in a room full of people, and someone brought up that some girl had been abused, and she's only come out about it like 16 years later, so she must be lying. I was like,
Yeah.
and I was just reading off my business, but because these things happen, and don't think because someone's not immediately
Yeah,
said this has
no,
happened to me that
absolutely.
it's not true. It just
Absolutely.
takes people time.
Of course. There is no time frame for that. And what about you, Lily?
So I guess my story also starts with being adopted. So at the age
Okay.
of 3, I was removed from my mum. She had mental health difficulties and we were isolated, so we didn't have family around us. And then I went into care, was adopted, and the first experiences was, like I said, a peer that was a relative in my adopted family would be touching me in my privates, rubbing against me, like all sorts, introduced me to VCR porn. So you can see like how long ago
wow.
that was. It was found in someone's belongings. And so similar to what you were saying about timelines, this was in primary school. But I know that it started to erode my identity and how I saw myself because being in a care system and waiting to have like prospective foster carers kind of want you. So people pleasing was already a feature of my life, but you don't have the language for that. So that was really, really difficult. And then it just seems like I seem to just attract it. And so I think that was something that a lie I believed about myself. So I remember being in a place of worship and someone's inappropriate touched me twice, and it was dealt with responsibly. But I think there was a moment where it's like, oh, are you sure this happened? And it was like, oh gosh. And then when I was 13, I was raped by a stranger, and my adopted placement broke down. So I ended up going back into care.
But why did it break down?
Oh, that's a long story. So,
okay.
No, it's okay. So basically I'd say it's some of the traumas coming out. So with what happened with my relative, I never told my mum. I didn't feel, so one of the things was, they'd say to me, is you're adopted, so you're not really family.
They would say that to you?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So it was already conditioned in my mind. And then again, with the whole process of being in care and how you're taught and how you have to present yourself to be liked, it was like, oh, well, I'm not going to be accepted. And I guess also in that day, I'm in my 30s, so there wasn't the same education you have around sexual abuse, sexual harm. So there wasn't any kind of rhetoric or dialogue about this. So I didn't know any better. And so I was definitely going into like tyrant years. I was really quite rebellious with my mum. She was raising me as a single parent, and it was really difficult for her. And I think the last straw was trying to have a house party, first at her house, our family home, and then at my grandmother's home. And so the next day I came back, my keys couldn't work. And so
how old was you?
14.
So there wasn't any no planning with children's services about
no. So okay.
Well, it's not a placement at this field.
No. So so basically I ended up going into kinship care. So one of the girls that was at the house party, her mum allowed me to stay overnight. Then it was a week. Then it was, I think between her and my mum, it was like, oh, she's not coming back home. And then it was just kind of in the care process. And then, then I had a formal foster placement, and then I had another kinship placement. But I'd say before I went into kinship care, as I was saying, I was raped by a person. And then when I went into my foster placement, again, I shouldn't be smiling, but I ended up being on the same street as the person who raped me. Their friends.
No way.
So they would be like, you're lying, you're a hoe, you're this, you're that, like he's suffering, like just drop the charges. And so I did in the end, because I was like, I can't compete with this. And I remember one of the things and this is not to dishonor my friend, but basically I was wearing a shot jacket, and so the police had taken that for evidence. And I remember having to explain to her why I couldn't give her back her shot jacket, and she stopped talking to me. And so I just felt like there was no one supporting me, yet this guy could have like so many people just supporting him and helping him. And then, so other parts of my story, I think from there, I really lost confidence in myself. Also, so for me, like I'd grown up in the church, so purity was really important to me, but I think there was no guidance other than don't have sex before you're married. So I was raped again, but this time was a bit more violent. So yeah, they were physically quite violent. They threatened me with a weapon. And at that point, I remember just shutting down. So that dissociation you spoke about. And I think the hardest thing, I know this is really quite graphic, but I think in that situation, I remember feeling like I had no autonomy and I had to protect my mouth more than I could protect the rest of my body in that sense. And one of the things I'd also gone through is being groomed. So I don't know how, and again, I didn't know anything at the time, no language, but there was probably a gentleman, I'd say he was like in his 30s, 40s. And I remember I'd see him on a high street when I think it was one day he'd met me and I just had an argument with my mum. And it was the whole, you know, how they wind down the window, start talking to you. You just kind of ignore, there isn't anything. And I don't know how we got into conversations. And I'd say this was definitely the kind of old school kind of stereotypical kind of grooming of the money on your mobile phone, the food, always seeming to call at the right time. And when I was younger, I really struggled with oversharing. So I think that made me very vulnerable to people. Even with the first person who raped me, I think we were getting on the bus, we were talking, I was probably sharing difficulties, I don't want to go home, all of this stuff. And to me, I thought it gave me a full sense of intimacy and trust with people.
Interesting.
And so I think that's something I'm really passionate about. I guess when I do share my story, it's helping educate women and young
that's the point.
girls.
Exactly,
Actually, no, if you're going through things, please talk to someone, please. I think that identity and self-worth. So that is, I guess, some of my experiences in a nutshell.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is heavy. That is heavy.
Yeah.
We was briefly speaking outside about like the narratives around overcoming such experiences and the titles that we use. So we were saying about, do you see yourselves as survivors? Alia, you can say what you were saying earlier about.
So I understand why people have changed from victim to survivor, but I actually hate the term survivor because it very much so means like it's fixated on this thing that I've been through. And actually my identity is not attached to this thing because this is one thing that's happened in my life or multiple in our cases, unfortunately. But either way, they are very small parts of chapters in our life. And I'm hoping to live a long one. So I refuse to be attached to this one thing.
For that to be your
forever.
identity.
Exactly.
What about you?
I agree. I think I tend to lean on using the word experience because it gives some kind of distance and detachment. I'm not a victim. I'm not a survivor. It's not to dishonor people that find those labels helpful.
Yeah.
But I think I will just talk about it as separate to me, an experience rather than
something that happened to me. It's not. It isn't to me. And you said that earlier, didn't you? But both of your stories are super. It's a lot, isn't it? And I think I've got a couple of questions. I'm gonna have to use my phone today, guys, because technical difficulties. But we just got to make it work. So we really spoke about identity, but how did that impact you growing up? So whilst it was happening, you said you didn't disclose it until you was about 15.
Oh yeah, and that I was bad. If you ask my relatives, they thought I was going to be in jail.
No way.
100%. The woman I am today, they're all like, oh my God, they can't believe it. They're like, was I proud? I'm like, babes, I knew I was going to be this. You just don't sleep on me. But yeah, it made me, because, okay, there's something very intense happening to me. This is probably the biggest thing happening to me over and over again in my life. And I can't tell anybody. So I can never be myself with anybody but the person that's abusing me. And even then, I'm a shell of who I am because now I'm in this like victim mode and like I can't even really say no because I want to say no. So I'm growing up, I'm seeing things, I'm learning that actually, in fact, for a long time, I thought this was normal. I thought being abused was normal. I didn't even think it was abuse. I thought this is what happens. And then I'm getting into bed with my mum and she doesn't do it. And I'm like, okay, so women don't do it then. And then, you know, you're staying over at your auntie's house or uncle's house. And, okay, he doesn't do it then. And then you slowly start to realize, hang on a minute.
This isn't normal.
This isn't normal. And so I'm keeping this big secret. And I can't be myself. And so the only thing I am now is really angry. And I'm angry at the world. I'm angry at my mom because I'm like, you're not protecting me. But she doesn't know she needs to protect me. I'm like, you don't know me because I'm not letting her know me. And so I walk around with this chip on my shoulder, angry at the world. I remember I used to walk around, I don't even know if I should say this, but I used to punch things like, and I did. I would, and I was rude and I was mean. One of my biggest insecurities and regrets in life is I was a bully. Because I needed to be the showman. I had to be so funny and so this at everybody else's expense because God forbid you work out what's wrong with me. Because I can't let you see that I'm in so much pain.
That is so telling because, you know, sometimes we have children, whether they're in the care system or not, and they're in school and they're displaying these behaviors. And for me, it's like, okay, this is the presenting behavior, but what's underneath it? And if we just took the time to try and figure it out, there's actually a model about that, the iceberg model. I don't know if you're familiar, where the iceberg, what you can see at the top is not what's actually underneath the water. And that's your story makes so much sense in the behaviors that are showing, but that's not a true reflection.
It's a mask.
That's it.
I can't let you see the real me because the real me, especially right now, is this teenager. I am broken, and you can't know that because I'm Alia. I'm strong. I'm this. I'm that. And so I for a long time I was just very angry. I was very closed off. I didn't express any emotion whatsoever. I didn't cry. I was very hard. I was very masculine. I was very hyper independent as a child. Like I didn't need anything from anybody ever.
Was that because you didn't trust you? Would you say you had trust issues with adults?
100%. Because actually, if I can't trust my dad,
No, exactly.
who on earth?
Right.
Who can I? Nobody. So I was very, very masculine. I was very closed off. And only once it's a lie. Even once I did speak out, it's taken me a long time to try and undo. And I'm still in the process.
Yeah.
Only at 31 now, I'm saying I want to be soft. Like I want to
Soft life,
I don't want to run everything. I want I want to be softer, and I'm learning to be softer. But it's a process.
And this is the thing, because you mentioned earlier about healing, and I just wanted to say healing isn't a place that we get to.
It's not a
Like,
destination,
I'm at
babes.
healed now. I'm at healed destination. It's a process, and something along your journey might always trigger this thing, but it's about having the regulation, the nervous system regulation, and the knowledge and the awareness anyway about what's happening for you, and is this relating to my past or is this relating to right now? That's the key, and that's part of that healing process of recognizing that awareness of this experience and this feeling that I have is actually not because of now. This is because of the past, and just bringing awareness to it. What about you, Lily?
So yes, it definitely impacted my identity. Similar to what you say in the masculine energy. I remember I'd wear like Lot 29 tracksuits, academics. I don't know if you remember
Yeah,
it.
I remember academics.
Yeah, and the kind of the military hats and
do you know
the
what?
screw
So did I
face
though.
and-
I don't know what was going on. I think it was just an era.
It was a road man.
Yeah, it used to be a
It was
road man.
ridiculous.
It was an error, but I know that I think with hindsight, I can see that there was a hardening of me because
Right.
men were harming me.
Right.
So
okay.
if I was more masculine, I couldn't get harmed.
Got it.
And I remember I went to a pupil referral unit. I was one of the first girls in there. So again, I'm faced with my worst nightmare, just all these guys, and I have to hold my own. I remember actually having a fight with one of the guys just to prove like, hey, you can't like take the mick out of me. I'm not a doormat. And I think just shame is something that really, really crippled me. And like I say, I think as an adult now, I'm still navigating through some of those insecurities, understanding how it links with a sensitivity to rejection and abandonment. But I think
there's a lot there. It's a lot.
Yeah,
There's a lot.
it is. But forgiveness has been a massive tenant in my journey. Understanding that forgiveness is for me, understanding that it's going to free me.
Absolutely.
Also, I guess, going back to faith, like that connection with God and being, okay, that's what's helped me become soft, I'd say. Because otherwise I would still be really hard because I didn't want people to know what was going on. And you touch on the iceberg model. And I think one thing I'd say for any practitioners listening is the importance of really having conversations with young people.
Absolutely.
Because half of the things I went through was whilst I was in care, whilst I had a social worker. And all they do is say, oh, she needs counselling. And I remember seeing one of my reports actually in school when I requested my records, and they were saying that they were concerned about my mental health and just how I was behaving and that I needed counselling, but they didn't want to give me counselling because it might impact my GCSEs, and I was quite academic, and so they didn't want to add any pressure. And because my mum had mental health issues, I think there was that worry as well.
Right.
And I think that's also what's kind of stopped me being able to be free to talk and access help, is that, everyone's just going to
relate
it
it back to
brush as my
your
mum
mum.
and not understand that there's so many things going on. And I guess the communication around professionals, because when I looked at my records, I can see that the police contacted the schools officer, which means the schools officer would have told the school, we're not communicating. And that was how many years ago, in 2004? And we're saying this, 21 years later? So yeah.
It's true. There definitely needs to be a system update. And this is part of why I've even started this podcast, because working in the front line for 5 years, I started to see the system as the system.
Yeah.
And there isn't enough time spent in trying to unpick the behaviors. And I get that we're overwhelmed with work and all of these things. But if we actually did a service where we were able to unpick the trauma, things would be so different. Or just take that time to understand why. Do you know what? I worked in a therapeutic home before I became a social worker, and what the therapist taught us was that all behavior is a form of communication. And so anytime the kids were responding to whatever stimuli was happening that day, which related to their own trauma, we just had to respond based on like, okay, this is not personal. A kid threw glass in my face, and I just had to be like, oh, we did call the police that day. We had to, just because it was getting really dangerous. But there's something to be said about holding that space and communicating.
So there's a step before that, right?
Okay, go on.
Because if we're talking about social work, at this point, there's been an incident and you guys have been notified about for whatever reason and now you're involved.
Right.
But ahead, like before that comes, there are so many behaviors
Yeah.
that are pointing. I remember I think I was in year 7. I remember I wrote really inappropriate words in my school book.
Yeah.
Now, as the older me, I understand that subconsciously, I was trying to tell people, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into, but they were very sexual, inappropriate words. Now, the teacher that found the book, because I had to hand it in, it's my book, it's my workbook. We had a chat and I was just like, oh, miss, I made up some cock and bull. Oh, miss, we was all making jokes. I forgot to rip my page out. Everybody did it. Babes, nobody did it, just you.
So did that ever get reported?
No. And it should have.
Yeah, it should have.
Right?
I think now it probably would, because I think schools are very anxious about things like that now. Now that would probably get reported.
I would hope so.
I mean, we hope
self-harm.
so.
And
and
it's like, if someone is at a point where they're self-harming,
you used to self-harm, you said?
yeah,
Oh.
let's dig deep. Like, there's something traumatic. There's something really wrong here.
Yeah.
But it was.
And did anyone notice
troubled.
that? Did anyone know that? Was it obvious?
It was obvious. I mean.
Oh, really?
I mean, I honestly, glory to God, and it's God alone. I used to self-harm regular, schmegular, like it was every Tuesday, all up my arms and my legs. And there was one time, which side is it? I still have the one little scar. And there was one time I used a bigger knife and it took a chunk of flesh out. Oh, and after that I said, oh, too far. And I never did it again. And glory to God, because I don't have the scars. I have that one scar as almost like the reminder of his grace and why, like, sis, you deserve to be here. Stop being silly.
Do you know, with the self-harm, I just want to touch on that briefly, because for you, I want you to tell me, just because this is what we read, but is it true in real life for you, that you self-harming because the experiences were so much that the physical pain took over the emotional feeling for you, or what was the reason, do you think you were self-harming?
I needed somebody to notice something.
Oh, okay.
I started self-harming at a time where I was bubbling, like, think of just
things were starting. Okay, it was starting to
and
get
at
too
this
much.
point, if I keep this in any longer, I'm gonna suffocate. Like, I'm gonna explode. And so I'm not strong enough to tell you, but somebody needs to notice that something's
someone
wrong.
notice?
Obviously, I have the conversations with my mum. She's like, just tell me, like, what's wrong? But I guess I was not mature enough to understand that nobody's going to guess this. Like, nobody's going to guess that you're being sexually abused. You grow up in a nice house, in a nice area, and you have a good mom. And no, your dad isn't, like, the most reliable, but he's a good person, to everybody else. And so who's going to guess that? And I didn't. And that's what Be Loud Foundation is about. Ensuring that children understand that these aren't things that are meant to happen, so that if it does, if someone tries, you understand that it is very safe and you're well within your rights to vocalize it. You have the power to vocalize it, because that's all I needed. I needed the strength to say, this is what it is, but I just didn't have it for a long time.
Wow, it's a lot. This is really heavy stuff, guys. But no, but I'm glad that you're able to share that. This is really important work that we're doing here. What about you, Lily, in terms of your?
I think just to the point you were saying in relation to there needs to be a step before social workers coming in. I think also there's something about really educating parents, teachers, people in the community to know how to draw these things out. If young people, we know that mentoring is one of those evidence-based strategies that can really help young people when they're going through difficulties. And I really resonate with what you're saying about being empowered to be able to share these things. But then what would it look like if those around you knew how to ask those questions to draw it out? And it's something as simple as when we say, how are you? A lot of us generally say, are you okay? You have to ask twice or like kind of look at them and be like, sis, are you really okay? And that's where the truth comes out. And sometimes it's just about, can we just spend a few more minutes, not just tick boxing, but just ask that question, look into the person's eyes, look at their body language, look at, are they being a bit closed off? Is their face kind of tensing? What's going on? And to be able to understand those experiences. And I think the two in tandem can really help because, and it's challenging because I think schools, I've got lots of friends that are teachers and they're having to be mental health professionals, they're having to be safeguarding leads, they're having to do all of these things alongside teaching and marking. So how can we empower community? How can we, those people who have an everyday influence in someone's life, how can you have that impact as well? Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about your relationships and how that is for you both, in terms of trusting someone, intimacy. What does that look like for you
Just
both?
smiling, Anne.
Do you know what? In some way, I'm glad that we can bring some lightness to this conversation because it is very heavy.
Yeah.
So I know you're not smiling because you're happy about these things. It's a nervousness and it's a protectiveness. So yeah, talk to me about relationships. What does that look like, Alia?
Do you mean in general?
Well, I mean,
how-
so at what point do you tell your partner that that's your experience? At what point, like, what does intimacy
Interesting.
look like?
Do you know what?
And
I have told all of my partners that I've been sexually assaulted, abused. I've told them all.
like early, or are you dating for a couple
Early
months?
because it impacted the way it impacts my intimacy. I'm not a physical touch person.
Okay.
And actually for a very long time I associated physical touch with sex. So I am only a person that shows physical affection when I'm going to have sex or when I want to have sex.
Okay.
And my partners notice it. My husband notices it and find it very offensive. So it's something I'm working on. But I think I linked the two, for obvious reasons. But because of what had happened to me, I don't like people touching me, and I don't like to touch people. And that's just how I've been since. I don't even remember a time where I was any other way whatsoever. So I've had to tell them early on, because it's kind of like trigger warning.
Yeah.
I'm not. My hand's not on your leg or your shoulder, not because I don't want to, but it just makes I feel uncomfortable. I don't even hug my friends. Me and my sister, we linked arms for the first time in our lives. She's 27, I'm 31.
Wow.
Like 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And I was like, we've never done this, and she was like, I know you don't touch, and I'm like, I know, like.
Well, it's good that you're doing it and that you're
trying to
relearning
break
that
down that barrier.
physical touch isn't unsafe.
And it's
all the
also
time.
not just about sex.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you can show signs of affection, and you can be intimate without having sex.
Yeah.
Through emotion,
Yeah.
through conversation, through a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
I think outside of physical touch and intimacy, the masculinity, it's a man's biggest nightmare to see me come in, because it's like, pretty girl, she's intelligent, she's so funny, and then here I come like, you can't do nothing for me. Like, I've been very masculine, and it's something I'm trying to break down, because number one, I'm not born to be this way. I was made this way, and I thought that this is the way to protect myself. But also, it's okay to allow people to do things for you.
Yeah.
It is okay. It doesn't make you weak.
Nope.
It doesn't make you dependent to depend on people.
No.
It just makes you a human being that has trust and has people like close enough to you that can do things for you. So yeah, it's a journey that
It
I'm
is a
on.
journey.
So
I mean, you're doing it. It's happening. Like I said, it's not a destination, isn't it? So
yeah, it's a journey, and I think especially now that I have a daughter, there are mirrors, right? So
yeah.
I would hate to wake up in 10 years and just see this hyper independent young lady. And I'm just like, you don't have to be this strong.
Yeah.
Like, especially as a Black woman, like, it's almost like we are forced and taught to be so strong. And strength is great, but softness is great too.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
showing moments of weakness, that is strength in itself. So that's what I hope to reflect onto her.
And what about you, Lily, in terms of partners' intimacy?
Yeah, so I've been abstinent for the last 10 years. That's part of my faith journey. So I guess in how it's really played out is platonic relationships. And again, that not wanting people to touch me, it's a kind of running joke that I don't like hugs, and so some of my friends will hug me. With that, the ones that we've got safe relationships with, I guess in work, people are kind of navigating and knowing, okay, kind of ask me. I've learned the confidence to be able to say, I'm not really a hugger. Like, I want, when there's a relationship, when I feel like I can trust you, there's vulnerability, I can, or if there's a kind of instant connection and I feel safe, then that's easy. And I think it's definitely something I've grown in, so it's not so bad. But I think the way it's affected me is really believing people's intentions, not necessarily trusting that they wish well for me. Sometimes, I guess, at my worst, like many years ago, there'd be fears of like, oh, what if this is just going to happen again? Like even sometimes being out in the street, and it's like, what if like someone would just randomly come and grab me? And so there's a running joke that I carry this massive water bottle, and which I do, it's here today. And I used to like, sometimes I'd have it in my mind like, oh, if anyone actually did kind of grab me, I could just quickly swing it. And so kind of dropping some of those defensive mechanisms has been something that I guess I've gone through over the years, and being able to see people for who they are. So not projecting past pains and what other people have done to me onto someone else. And it's like, I've got a phrase like, I don't want to bleed on people. And, you know, they talk about it. Yeah. And I guess in terms of relationships, like you don't think of your past relationship and bring it into this one. So seeing everyone as individuals. So that's something I'm trying to do. But I think fellowship, like real close community, especially with women, has helped me. It's helped me kind of discover who I am, bring that softness, that feminine side to me. So yeah.
Do you know, I love that. I really do love that. And recently I've started hosting women's spaces, and that's been really good. And it's such a nice place to be and just have women feel empowered and safe and just be. And so far the feedback has been really good. So I do agree with you in terms of that women's space. It's so important. I want to talk a bit about parenting as well, because we did touch on it in terms of like the fear-based scenario, but you have a daughter and you have a son. So just in terms of gender, does your son know what your story?
He does. He knows bits. I think I probably shared a little bit too early with him, I guess, in terms of his understanding. But I saw some of my trauma playing out with him. And with that physical touch, especially him being a male. And thinking about the experiences I've had with men in the past, I think as he got older, especially because my harm started off when I was much younger. So there was a point where it's like he stopped being this little sweet, small thing to, oh, actually you're growing up and you're becoming more like a man, a young boy, someone that I've experienced harm from in the past. And so I never see him as a threat, but I realized that I had to really learn to relax some of my boundaries. Like he loves physical touch. Like he's a big hugger. He's like, really kind of affectionate and loving. And he, even though I guess he's grown up in a single parent household, I guess he's not had the same traumas as I have had in terms of that fragility with relationship. So I'm always questioning myself and thinking, am I good enough for you as a mum? Am I like loving you? Am I guiding you? Am I protecting you? And I think I've put so much pressure on myself over the years. And if I had my time again, I would do things I just relax more. That's what I'd really do.
How old was you when you had your son? I mean, I could do the maths, but
I was 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, where was you living at that time?
I was in kinship care and then ended up having to then have my own place because of that.
Because you had a son. Okay. And what about you, Alia, in terms of raising a daughter?
First of all, I love it. It's actually such a good time.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
I think just hearing you talk about the fact that he's a big hugger, it's funny. God gives you what you need. So my daughter is so touchy. Like, I honestly, from the minute the girl opens her eyes, she's like,
that's cute.
And I'm like, babe, get your hands off me. But it's actually softened me up. It's broken down that icky feeling of stop touching me so much, because I needed that. I needed someone that is super safe. Someone that is mine, like she came from me. And she's the person that she doesn't even know she's doing it, but she is making me feel comfortable to touch, or comfortable, more importantly, comfortable feeling touched. When she was really young, I breastfed for 15 months. Okay. And obviously as they get older, they start tickle things for themselves and rub up. And I remember at first, I would literally be sitting there like hyperventilating. Because if she was feeding too long, I'd be like, because she's touching me and I can feel her and it's my breast and I feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, wow, do this. But I was like, God, give me strength to please. And that's why I lasted for 15 months. But in it, I quickly realized, like, sis, that she's not doing anything wrong. This is the trauma. It's triggering.
It's the awareness, though. This is the point. It's the awareness of, is this experience related to now or the past? And a lot of people who go through trauma are unable to do that. But also, like you said earlier, the brain does do that safe thing to help you block it out. Wow, that is intense. But that is so interesting. I never really thought about that in terms of breastfeeding and
For me, it was important to breastfeed to make sure she was as healthy as possible, as humanly possible. I was going to make it that way.
yeah.
And so I had all this excitement around breastfeeding. And then when it got there, I was like, I feel so uncomfortable. And not the actual feeding. It was just somebody's skin on my skin in this very sensitive place.
Wow.
And I couldn't comprehend the fact that, why am I going through these emotions? And so I had to really break that down and really unlearn and become comfortable
This is it.
with her
This
being
is
in
it.
that space. And that's not to say now anyone can touch with her and it's fine, because I still have a boundary.
Of course. Yes.
But it means that my own child can comfortably put her hands, because she's still like, mummy, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I'm just like,
Yeah.
come through the shower. Mummy.
Saying that, did either of you rely on any sort of therapeutic services for your healing? I say healing, but because it's a journey. But was there any moment in time where you did get access to counselling or any sort of therapeutic support?
So I didn't do it straight away. I didn't. In fact, I kid you not. So I went to court with my case with my dad.
Oh, that's another point actually.
Went to court. That was a traumatic family tear up. Half the people ain't talking.
Really?
And I mean, he bossed case. He didn't
Really?
Yeah. He made it. I mean, it was a very unfair trial. I was sat behind a camera. They pulled out all my school records, which obviously don't look good, because when you're talking to a 16-year-old girl that has a million isolations and you're kicked out and this, that, the third, that doesn't look like I could be telling the truth. So that's another story.
Well, that's debatable.
But they offered me afterwards, there was this charity that actually gave me funding because they knew that this happened to me. And they also offered me therapy. And I declined because I was like, I don't know you. I'm not going to speak to you about business. That was just me at the time.
Yeah.
And so I found therapy in myself. I would literally sit down by myself for hours and say, okay, why do you feel like that? Okay, but why do you? And then why? And I would ask keep digging, why, until I fully understood myself. Then I started to go to church again, and I really found God. Like when I say I got baptized and he saved me, he really brought me up and built me up. You know, in a way, like, for I have plans to prosper you and not to harm you. And
Love that.
I found my light, because I knew that this happened to me because someone else chose to do it. But God was going to use this experience to work through me so I could make sure this doesn't happen to anybody else. And so that was a form of therapy.
Yeah.
Then I got pregnant when I was 29, 28. And before I had my daughter, I said, I am going to fix me good and proper before you get here. Because what I'm not going to do, and that fear-based teaching, I'm not going to raise you in the fear that somebody's going to do these things to you, because I'm going to build you up so nobody can do these things. So I went to therapy. I had a lot of other things going on at the time as well. My mom has Alzheimer's, and that I took that rough. So as I mentioned, I wasn't close to my mom growing up because of the manipulation. And so we only built a relationship from the age of 16. So she became my best friend at 16. And by the time I was 20, she got sick.
Oh, really?
And so I had my mom for 4 years. And then in my mind, I was like, God, you're taking my mom? Like, I just got her. And so that was a real challenge for me mentally, because I'd lost so many years, and that in itself, that brought out so many emotions, because then I had this hate now for my dad, because it was like, you did me
of this. Yeah.
She's sick because of you, because you've stressed her out, and I don't have the memories. I have no memories from my child. So when my sister's like, do you remember we used to do this? I'm like, no. And she's like, but did it? And I'm like, I don't remember.
Wow.
And so I held such a grudge to the world, to God, to my dad. And I had to just come to a place of forgiveness for everything. And so the therapy helped me really understand why I felt that way. It helped me understand why I don't remember things. The not remembering for me was such a trauma and a heavy baggage I carry, because I feel like I've missed my own life. And I was here, but I wasn't, right? And so the therapy helped me understand that I don't remember because I cannot cope with remembering right
That's
now.
it. That is
And
it.
one day I might be able to, but for
Yeah.
now I cannot be angry because my brain is protecting me.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's doing. It's
Yeah.
saying, sis, this
Yeah.
is
It's
too much.
for you. This association.
And little things come back slowly,
Like
slowly. So it gives me hope. And the good flashbacks.
Okay, good.
So
yeah.
the positive stuff, the happy stuff.
Oh,
where I'm
nice.
like, oh my gosh. And something feels like deja vu. And then I'm like, I know why. And so the therapy helped me with that.
What
And
type of therapy
therefore-
was it? Just talking therapies, or did you do?
Psychotherapy, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And yeah, it was incredible. And funnily enough, I actually got it because when we took my mum to the hospital, she has a very rare form of Alzheimer's called PCA. And part of it, yes, is the memory, but she also goes blind. She is blind now. But so at the time, I remember being up in that hospital bawling, like, what kind of news is this? Like,
Honestly.
and they said, you know what? We offer counselling, we offer therapy for carers, because I was
Okay.
my mum's carer.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, why did you give it to the carers, not the people that are sick? And she's like, no, you guys need it. And that was the biggest blessing ever, because I ended up having it just before I had my daughter.
Okay.
And so by the time she got here, I was locked in. I was like,
good.
sis,
That's
I'm
so good,
ready
though.
for
That's
you.
so important. That's so important, actually, because when we have a lot of families that, they come into care and we just see the cycle play out over and over and over again. But when you are aware that these things are showing and could potentially show up, doing that work, whether you did it intentionally, you didn't go to look for it, but it came and you took the opportunity, that's the key. And also, if we could have a system where that is available, easily available, without these 2-year waiting lists, then we could change so much.
I think
just
everybody
through
should
those
have therapy.
I've
not just
been screaming
people that
that.
have been in trauma.
Everybody should,
My
absolutely.
daughter, it will
should
be
be
in
mandatory.
therapy, because
It should be mandatory.
you need to be able to speak freely
Yes.
without judgment and get things off your chest. And sometimes you can't do that with the closest people to you.
Exactly.
Because of fear of judgment.
Absolutely. What about you, Lily?
So I think I probably have a journey that's probably similar to people who have experienced difficulties, and then there's just that generational cycle. So I mentioned that I'd been encouraged to access counselling, but it was just given as a tick box. So it's just like, oh, you should do counselling. I'm like, why? Because you think I'm crazy. Like there wasn't a rhetoric. It wasn't any kind of real support. And it's just like, oh, this is how it will benefit you. It just felt very formal and institutionalized. So I think I've been a journaler. I think since even when it was happening to me, I used to write in my journals, and I think that I used to write hoping that someone would find it.
Do you still have those?
No, not those ones. I have my journals from 2013 up till now. So journaling, self-help. So I guess I'm showing my age now, but obviously as I got older, I'd say probably from about 2009, 2008-9, where internet, you could like have it in your home. I do a bit more research on the topic, and I think I'd educate myself then. There's actually lots of sites and forums where people share their stories, but I think it's also being able to have a space where it's contained. So faith has been a massive part of my journey, and I'd say the way God has done it. So I'd say 14th of April 2020, I remember I was just tidying up, doing a spring clean, and I was shredding my paperwork, and I've got a life story book. So for those who don't know, when you've been in care, you've got this book that explains to you why you're in care, what your experiences are. And I used to hate reading it because it was the most tick boxy thing. Like they found things off the internet about like Ghanaian tribe and then just put it there, and it's like, it's not even my clan. Like my family tree is missing. It's just like, oh, your mom didn't give us details, so it's just like loads of gaps. I'm like, oh, so I'm just this person who doesn't exist.
There was no real care in it.
There wasn't. And I remember I used to annotate it, and I think it was the 15th of August 2004. I was really depressed, and so I struggled with a lot of suicidal ideations. But because I'd grown up with a foundation of God, I was too scared to harm, because I was like, I might go to hell. But then it was just like, it didn't stop me battling those things. And so I remember just kind of wishing my life away, wanting to run off and like get married, have a child, and like just live a better life. And one of the things that I know I did wrong was hoping that my child would save me. And that's something that I've seen in my family tree as well, where it's we use this to kind of have a new sense of purpose
Mm-hmm.
and keep going on. And so I think there's some unhealthy bits there. So the journey has looked like using scripture and finding out who my worth is, and being affirmed in that, knowing that there's a savior. I think for someone who's gone through harm, abandonment, adoption, all of those things, there was no, and you've touched on it so much, there was no one there to save me. There was no one looking out for me. But now there's this God that I can reconcile with. And I think sometimes he can be painted in such a bad way, not because of who he is, but because of how people act. And so I've really had to learn how to separate those different things, learn about forgiveness, learn about love. And I think it's one of those things, it's like, how can you forgive someone who's abused you and who's harmed you? Well, because one, I'm not perfect. We all do things that are wrong. And I think I found if God forgives me, I'm called to forgive other people. And I found freedom in it. It doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it perfect. It doesn't mean that I might not see them and get butterflies in my stomach. That could be very real. But I choose to be a forgiver. I choose to be a lover.
That's it.
Yeah. So
So much strength in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
You know, there's a
Power.
saying that says, hating someone is like drinking poison and expecting the
This
other
is it.
person to die.
this is
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
This is it.
So forgiveness
Because it
is
eats at
massive.
you, not them. They're going about. They're still going to do what
They're
they're
living
doing.
their life. They're doing
living their
whatever they're
life,
doing. So yeah, it's really important that that forgiveness element comes in. And it's difficult though, and it's a
Yeah.
journey, and it's not about forgetting. That's the main thing. Well, forgetting is even debatable as well.
Well, you never forget.
Yeah, that's
I
the
can
thing.
never, ever forget.
Yeah.
Because you
the
know when
things
people say,
anybody's
like-
done to me.
You know when people say stuff like, maybe not in relation to your stories, but about like just get over it, like just get
Yeah.
over it, just get over it. But it's deeper than that. But anyway, just touching a bit more on your faith. Tell me a little bit more about how that experience has been for you. Have you always had a community in church, and what do you say to people who are not Christian or not or are atheist and don't understand that journey, and often see God as this person that depicts also like
That allows bad things
allows
to
bad
happen.
things
Yeah.
to happen. Yeah.
So I've always known God. Funnily enough, my dad would make us read the Bible before bed.
Really.
Yeah. Like, yeah, he was a Rasta.
Okay.
So that was that conversation. But yeah. So my mom, grandma always took us to church. We used to go to Sunday school, all of that jazz, gospel, da. So the foundation was there.
Was always there.
But the strength in the relationship I didn't have. And that was something I built over time.
Yeah.
And actually I didn't find him in the midst of my trauma. I found him when I came through it. And often when I talk about my experience and my relationship with God, people always ask, so God allowed these things to happen to you just so you could do X, Y, Z. And actually, God didn't do these things, right? People did this. We have free will, and that's the greatest gift of time because we're not puppets.
Right.
But what God did do is he gave me the strength to overcome, and he also empowered me enough and gave me enough purpose, shall I say, to then use me to then help others through the experience that I'd been subjected to because of another human being. And so it's very important to identify the difference between the free will that God has given us and God intervening and using us for better things.
Yeah.
Do you want to touch on that in any way?
I really second that. And I think in the Bible, it talks about how God is able to use all things for the good of those who are called. So there's something about in life, and actually it reminds me of post-traumatic growth. A lot of us talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, and we don't really understand that when you go through difficulties, you can develop new meaning,
This is it.
and
Absolutely.
a new identity. And in post-traumatic growth, one of the stages is actually a new spiritual development. So it's really understanding just his heart, his love. And I think that's one of the things, like you were mentioning about growing up knowing God, but actually for me, it was understanding my relationship with him and who he was and what he wanted to do in my life, how he wanted to save me. I think that's the massive thing of he is a savior, he's a rescuer, and the Bible talks so much about that. So I think that's really helped me.
Oh, that's good. That's just. I'm like I said earlier, I'm pretty sure someone is going to resonate with both your stories. This has been just so useful, and I hope that the listeners really do gain strength and hope from your stories, because I'm sitting here in awe of both of you. Like, wow, you've just been through everything and you're still sitting here strong, smiling, and just what what message do you want to give to younger girls watching, or parents who've been through something never disclosed? What advice would you be giving to anyone listening who's gone through something similar or going through something similar?
I think just relieve yourself of the burden.
What does that look like?
That looks like opening up, living your truth, and finding your voice. Like I had an event actually earlier this year, find your voice and release the burden.
Okay, nice.
And that is literally about you feeling empowered enough to share your story and stop taking the blame on yourself. Stop carrying the shame. Stop feeling like you're a victim as such, in the sense of you're so much more than the things that have happened to you. And I think it's so important. And it doesn't necessarily mean jump on a podcast or go on Instagram and this is this, you know, be on Facebook like I know people do. But tell somebody, because actually sometimes your story is the thing that might save somebody else.
Yeah.
And so if there's anything that you should do, is just like be loud and voice, share your story. And it doesn't have, it can be as much as you want to or as little as you need
safe to share.
But just share, because you don't know whose life you're actually saving. And so it's the same way I shared my story. My mum was like, I'm so happy that she's not so happy, but she finally got to, and she said it was eating her. Like every day she wanted to tell someone, but she never could. And now
What about your mum's abuse?
Yeah, she was maybe 45, 48, something deep in her 40s before she could ever release that burden. She'd been carrying the weight of somebody else's wrongdoings. So bear in mind, you're carrying somebody else's. And I think the key thing, sorry, I'm blabbering on, but the key message in voicing and speaking out is actually you are taking away the perpetrator's power. Their power, their superpower is your silence. That's because they get to carry on and do what they do. They're going to get to do it to somebody else. They're happy. So take back the power, take away their power, and use your voice.
That is so important. And be loud just makes so much sense. And I guess that's intentional, that name.
100%.
Yeah. What about you, Lily? What would you like to leave for the listeners?
I would say, what are some of the lies that you've believed over the years about yourself, about your experiences, the things that you've now internalized that's impacting how you think of yourself, how you see the world, how you do relationships, how you do life.
That's so important.
So that emotional literacy, self-awareness. But it doesn't have to be technical or fancy. I think sometimes we've professionalized mental health and mental well-being so much that it doesn't feel accessible anymore. It could just be writing in a journal.
Journaling
It could be drawing. Not everyone likes to write. It could be just different things, different creative outlets to be able to release what's going on in your heart and your mind. Being kind to yourself. I think also taking time to slow down and take stock. We live in a world that is so fast-paced and busy. And just being able to take that time out to heal, to process, to grow. And also figure out, who do you want to be? So James Clear, he's the writer of Atomic Habits, if anyone knows him. And the aim is, when you're focusing on goals, it's not about what you do, but who you are, who you're becoming.
So the identity.
This is it. And it goes back to identity. I think until that is restored, we will continue to struggle. I think it's understanding our traumas. Like you've been saying, our traumas don't define us. They can be separate, but just having that hope, being community. And I guess maybe for the more introverted people, or maybe more reserved, if you're not at that space of being able to share your story, making sure you're in community so you have that support, allowing people to love on you as well, and growing with them. But just...
And for we're gonna wrap up now, but just for professionals working in the space of young people and parents who have gone through these experiences, what should we be doing to notice the signs, or what, from your own experiences, what do you think is most helpful in this climate now?
I'd say relationship-based practice. You need to know someone deeply, and that doesn't actually take a long time. It just takes a genuine effort. And so if you're doing visits and the young person's not talking to you, I've been on visits where it's like, I'll wait an hour and a half in a room and they've said 3 words to me, but week after week after week of doing that,
they start talking.
Exactly.
No, I'm the same.
Also, one of the things that really helped me in practice is the emotions wheel. So where they don't know how to
name it.
Yes. And I love it because it talks about primary emotions, secondary emotions, tertiary emotions. I didn't know there were tertiary emotions, but helping them break down on, it's like, okay, I'm sad, I'm confused, I'm frustrated, and seeing the link
Having
between
the
your emotions.
language to describe what's
This
going
is
on
it.
for you,
And
isn't
it's empowering to them.
Yeah.
It helps them have a voice. It helps them be able to be loud, because they now know, okay, this is what's going on for me. I can now articulate it in a way. I'd say also, please equip yourself with knowledge. I know what it's like. I've worked in MASH, I've worked in schools, I've worked in early help. So I know what it's like to have like lots of families, lots of caseloads, and thinking, oh my gosh, I just can't do this. Take time to research, even if it's whilst you're going on to on your visits. There's the Centre of Expertise for Child Sexual Abuse. There's NSPCC. There are so many tools at our disposal for us to help understand what works best for young people and everything. It's so funny when you look at all these interventions, everything goes back to relationship-based practice, that connection.
Yeah,
So,
it's true.
yeah,
absolutely. Anything from you, Alia?
I think most importantly, it is thinking outside of the box when it comes to healing. So often, and I think you said it, it's just like, okay, just go to therapy. But sometimes therapy isn't what I need right now. Sometimes I need to do an activity. I need to learn a skill. I need a different form of expression so that I can find healing through that and then get to the stage. So I think if that had have been offered to me earlier on, then I might have been able to start my healing journey earlier on.
Wow, it's very, very interesting stuff, ladies. I thank you so, so much. I do really think that you're going to touch people with your stories. Absolutely. And as you've both been saying, God has a purpose for you both. And sometimes we go through things, we can't explain it. We don't know why, but there is a greater purpose. And it's seeing people like you who are thriving in your careers, going on to have positive relationships and have children. And yeah, it's just really inspiring. So thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And I'm gonna put your details. So if anyone does want to reach out to you personally, I'm sure you're happy for
Always.
yeah, perfect. So yes, thank you guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.